Simpson had asked the question most important in his mind. "What will happen?" he asked. "How will it happen?" The old man studied him in silence for a while and then began to speak, and uncannily the girl was translating simultaneously again. "It will begin very unobtrusively. First his eyes will dim. He will think that he requires glasses and have his eyes tested. Then there will be hair loss, not particularly painful, but for a young, vain, successful man, most distressing. Then there will be tiredness, and he will seek medical treatment. His doctor will give him a tonic and suggest a rest, perhaps, but it will do no good." The old man paused before continuing. "There will be a time when nothing more will happen. The victim will think that his troubles are over. Then he will begin to develop open sores, lesions on his scalp and genitals. Apart from the pain, the assault to his vanity will cause him equal suffering. He will withdraw from society and seek medical help, but the doctor's tests will reveal nothing, and they will be unable to help him." Simpson interrupted the old man. "Please," he asked. "A question. Will he at any time become infectious?" The old man regarded him silently, and for the first time Simpson noticed that one of his eyes was almost clouded over with cataracts. He thought it strange that he had never noticed it, but quickly put it down to the poor lighting in the room. After what seemed like an age, the old man spoke. "Your wife will be in no danger, but in the last days you must be wary of him, for he will know what has happened and what is causing his death, and your final revenge will be his realization that he can do nothing about it. Finally, the lesions will spread over his face and body. He will become hideous in appearance, and by now the pain will be driving him insane. At this stage, he may well commit suicide. No matter, the end will be very near." Simpson found that he had been holding his breath, and he let it out in a rush. He felt totally exhausted, drained no doubt because of the tension and strain of the last few months. He sat back in his chair, uncertain of what to do or say next. He looked past the old man to the heavily curtained window. He could see a ray of light in which dust particles danced madly. As he watched, the ray turned red and started to fade away. He glanced at his watch in the dimness of the room and saw that it was nearing 5. Outside it would still be light, and he longed to get out of this place into the sunshine again, to feel its warmth on his face and hands. He sat up straight and once again became the successful businessman that closed million-dollar deals with easy regularity. The service had been requested, a price agreed upon, and now it had been paid. The deal was concluded. He closed and locked his briefcase and stood up. "Thank you, sir," he said, "for your assistance." The old man did not rise, but inclined his head slightly. The girl rose and beckoned Simpson to follow her. As she walked out in front of him, she seemed taller, somehow less fragile than she had been when she let him in. She was wearing pale blue, shiny styled pants that accentuated the outline of her hips as she moved. She opened the front door and stood by silently as Simpson passed out into the landing. He thanked her and looked into her eyes. They seemed narrower now, less almond-shaped than he remembered. It was almost as if in the course of the meeting she had grown from a young girl into a young woman. She did not acknowledge his thanks, but merely looked at him as she slowly closed the door, leaving him alone on the landing. The red light still shone dimly, and he stood for a moment to allow his eyes to become accustomed once again to the dark. Then he made his way carefully down the stairs to the street. After she closed the door and slid one heavy bolt across it, the girl returned to the room. The old man had risen from his seat and was peering idly through the curtains at the street below. He turned and asked the girl politely to bring fresh tea and to discard the cup that the Englishman had used. He was always polite to the people he dealt with. He could afford to be. He had a power that very few people in the world possessed, and confident in that power he had lived in peace for a very long time. The girl returned with the tea, and behind her a young Chinese gentleman in an immaculate business suit entered the room. He bowed respectfully and waited to be acknowledged, and the old man returned his greeting. "Ah Bo," he said, using Alan Chan's Chinese name. "Please sit down. You heard everything that was said?" "Yes, sir. Thank you," he replied. "I cannot thank you enough for informing me of my employer's intentions. I am forever in your debt." The old man waited for the girl to pour the tea and leave before speaking. "It would be unthinkable, unforgivable for me to use my gifts against one of my own clan, my own family, especially if the service was paid for by a foreigner. That is why I warned you." Alan Chan bowed his head in gratitude. He had no illusions as to the extent of the old man's power. He had not asked for payment of any kind, only the same items that had been requested of Simpson: some hair, fingernail clippings, a personal item and a photograph. Items that Simpson's wife had been only too pleased to provide. The two men drank their tea in silence for a while. When he had finished, Alan placed his cup on the table in front of him. He was sitting very erect, out of respect for a revered elder. Once again he expressed his deep gratitude to the old man, who inclined his head in acceptance, and then rose from the table. Alan Chan followed suit, understanding that the interview was over. The girl appeared at the door of the room, ready to show him out, and the two men turned to each other to say their farewells. Alan bowed once again, showing great reverence to an elder. Then, with his heart beating wildly in his chest, he dared to ask one final question. "When will it begin?" He almost blurted it out and prayed that he had not been too presumptuous. The old man placed his hand on the younger man's shoulder, understanding the impatience of youth, and as they continued to walk towards the front hall together, he said, "It already has, my son. It already has."